What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday, Bobby. Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets Haber. Coming off of a very strange, not strange. It's pretty predictable these days. It's a lot. It was a big mess. There was a lot going on. Trying to play a bunch of lineups in that sometimes works out amazing. I actually felt pretty good about my lineups. I had a million great scores like everybody else did. Everybody did great. Unfortunately, other guys just did better. And there's not really a whole lot else I can say about it. I actually lost a little bit of money, and I guess it could have been worse, but it wasn't good. It doesn't feel good. Sheets, I'm ready to turn it around tonight. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I hung in there in my single entry stuff, which was good because the single entries were, they paid okay. I played the big one in both sites and lost, so that was not good. And I just wasn't quite as nimble with my multi MMEs as other people were. Let's put it that way. When all that news came out a little later. So, and if you're not going to be as nimble, then you're just not going to do as well. That's just the way it is. But on to another slate, and again, it's for those of you that are watching the early slate, I still think it's really important to do this. And I was gonna do this. Last night I was gonna say, Bobby, let's just not even bother with the new. You know what I mean? But I still think it's important to get at least a bird's eye view of the slate. And so, if first of all, not that much happens, you'll know where you're going. And if stuff does happen, again, you won't, forget what were good plays in the first place,
Right. And you know what? And sometimes we all do forget that, by the way. Like yesterday, we have a great example. I mean, Jimmy Butler, for example, was a guy we were all over at the beginning of the day, or I was all over. I mean, I was talking about it, and we mentioned Bam as another guy to get involved with that Clippers situation.
But then there are other plays, but the funny thing is then there are other plays that are only, and this is a really important lesson, there are only other good plays, there are only good plays in context of the slate. So like talked about Nerlens Noel, like at the beginning of the day, when there was, very little like exceptional value. I mean, he was going to be, I'm telling you, remember we did this, he was going to be 50% owned and you could not play him. There was really like, but then as all the Houston value opened up, right? It just became not as necessary. Right. And then what happened is then the conversation turned differently. Then, as you accurately pointed out, it just didn't work out this way, that from what was once kind of like a must kind of like hold your nose, put in cash type play, then it became kind of a 10% of a possible tournament play,
Right.
So it turns out didn't smash, but whatever it is. Right. And that's the way you kind of have to think about these things. So when you look early, look, the projections are really not going to change for some guys, but a particular guy's performance depends on the context of the slate. So as the slate changes, even a guy who doesn't change, their role in the slate changes. So I think that's an important lesson to derive from this.
Right. No, I mean, absolutely. And, there's a lot of other thing that happens is a guy like Capella, yesterday, who was a really good play. Like, he put up 45 or 46 and he was 7,400. And you take that on most nights. But last night, last night, anything resembling a non 8X performance is just dead. Yeah. I mean, it would have been the one thing I would say is I did a ton of switching to Ben Simmons. The problem is I switched to him from Jimmy Butler. So Ben Simmons outscored him, but it would have been nice to have both those guys together because pretty much every winning lineup, you had to have those two guys. And Dwight Howard was the other one I made a good switch on to, who was on all the winning lineups as well. But didn't quite get there. We're going to get back into it tonight. Sheets, why don't we bring up your screen and start going game by game? I think we should start with the second. Well, I guess you know what? I'm starting to get updated projections finally because Tice is out today. But we just got that news about 20 minutes ago. So some of the projections are still updating. Do you want to start with
Tice is out today?
Tice is out today, which is just going to make it, just a little bit like, what are we going to do Robert Williams, Tristan Thompson wise?
Well, we could talk about that. So first of all, with Denver, Boston, I mean, you led into it nicely because when you're playing against Jokic, you do have to kind of figure out what you're going to, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, sorry. You do have to kind of figure out what you're going to do with respect to, you got to do me a favor. You got to pause this for just a minute. Sorry.
All right, we're back, guys. Sorry, Sheets, go ahead.
Sorry about that. So what I was saying was that, if they're playing Jokic, you do have to kind of try to figure out how you're going to deal with that, right? So with Tice being out, we do have to kind of speculate. They can't just run small. they have to throw somebody out there. So I imagine, I mean, they're kind of have to start Thompson, no? Or is this the day that they run out Taco Ball?
Taco Fall, like it's possible, like he gets some run today. Boy, Taco Fall and Bull against each other could be kind of a fun little situation that you can see in this game. But I think it's mostly going to be Williams and excuse me, why can't I think of his name? Thompson. The problem is, so here's my issue with it, and it's sort of similar. You know what? I hate to do this to you, Sheets. I'm gonna have to put you on pause for a second.
That's fine.
Sorry about that. We're back, guys. Anyway,
it's taking a lot of real life time to get through the Denver-Boston game, but hopefully in your life, it's probably only like a couple of minutes. But so yeah, I think that you're right. I think Tristan Thompson or which Williams is it going to be? I forget.
Robert Williams.
Robert Williams is going to get well extra run, but what kind of run is it? I mean, like it's just run where you're going to get blasted, right? I mean, that's in any case. Let me go through who I liked from Boston. Overall, Bobby.
Go ahead. Let's go through. Let's talk about this as a great example of exactly what we were talking about before, because this is an island game. You have an hour between this and other games. There probably won't be quite as much info today as there was yesterday because of the back-to-backs and there were so many situations that were going on. But there's always that opportunity, and we saw what happens last night when it just changes the slate. So we just have to remember that the value in these early games is significantly worse than the value in the later games. I'm sorry, it just is, because we don't know what's going to happen. So if you have guys who are even close to equal, you always play the later guys these days, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good call. But if they do announce that Taco Fall is starting, I'm going to play him. Anyway, on Boston, this was actually pre-Tice news, but I don't think it matters too much. I did like the three main guys from Boston, that being Tatum, Brown, and Walker. And before we do that, I would like to say that it is kind of a tricky slate on DraftKings. I was able to make FanDuel picks a lot easier today than at first look that I did DraftKings. Just kind of saying that kind of in advance. But some of the better plays overall, at least for now, are coming from Boston. Tatum, Brown, Walker. Obviously Walker's remains a little cheaper on FanDuel. But I like all three of those guys. And on Denver, for whatever reason, I wasn't like making Jokic a priority, but with no Tice, I mean, he's gonna obliterate people. So I don't know how to avoid that. The other guys on Denver is again now Michael Porter Jr. I mean, he was fine in the last game, but given what everybody was expecting out of him, I mean, he was bad. I mean, he was I guess this is why he was 1 for 7 from 3. Oh yeah, he wasn't fine. I mean, he was terrible.
It's gonna happen with him sometimes.
Yeah, at least he got his 30 minutes. But he's going to be obviously a really good play for Denver. And then these other guys, I mean, Monte Morris, he always looks like a good value if he plays. Jermichael Green always looks like a good value, but he kind of stinks. So I don't know. Instinctively, with this Tice being out, I mean, this is bad news for the Boston front court, man. I mean, Jokic is going to obliterate people.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't know that he makes sense still from a price standpoint versus Giannis, for example, versus Cat, who's $1,400 cheaper. That's where I'm at, and also the later games. I understand there's all the bodies are gone. Just want to point out that Denver is super deep. So there were. I heard some shows. I listened to some people talking. I read some articles today. People talking about how Denver's only got 9 players. That's not just not necessarily true. Right now, I've got them with 10. And just because we don't know how much Bol or Vlatko Kankar are going to play, they're still going to play some minutes. So not everybody on this Denver team is like the way that other people are talking about it is like you have to play 4 guys in this team. I mean, Jermichael Green and Michael Porter are the obvious ones. And even though I don't like the idea of ever like playing Porter in cash, I actually think he is like a cash game play tonight. It's just
tell me. No, we don't talk about cash too often. So tell me why you think that.
Well, first of all, his projections are pretty sky high. We have you take away the Barton and Millsap, who's going to get the run. All Michael Porter's. I mean, look, he didn't get there the other night in minutes. That's like the first time I can remember him not like almost averaging a point per minute in his life. So all he has to do is get a point per minute, and he's already going to beat his salary. He and JaMychal Green, the usage on these guys, they're going to play 30 to 33 minutes where they're used to playing in the 20s. And you take away a guy like Barton, who's pretty active and has some usage, and so does Millsap, by the way. So that's sort of the argument for them. And they're going to be very popular because they're going to project incredibly well. That's that part that I can tell you for sure. But I just want to point out, you don't need to play all these guys. You don't need to play them all together. If I had to rank them in order of my interest, it would be Porter number 1. It would be Green number 2. But I think there's bus paths in both. So I don't think that either of them are so-called locks. Not that I like locks anyway. The guys who are interesting to me are, well, we need to know what happens with Monty Morris. But if Monty Morris plays, I think he's interesting at 4.4. If he's out, that just opens up. That's when it really opens up. That's when you get the maybe Campazzo. Maybe you can play RJ Hampton in a lineup or two. I actually think RJ Hampton is going to be kind of in play if Morris is out, seriously in play. And then Jamal Murray too. The only thing is Jamal Murray is still in play anyway here. Because of the way that the positions work out, they're not going to be able to put Jaylen Brown on him. They're going to have to guard him with Kemba a lot of the time. And Jamal Murray, I mean, look, he hasn't had those kind of crazy games like we saw in the bubble, but this guy put up 39 and 40 his last 2 games. He seems like a quiet 40 here in a pretty easy spot. I like him better on FanDuel at 6,500, but I do think Jamal Murray is high interest for me. So Porter, then Green, Jokic, then Murray, and then I have to figure out what happens with Morris to decide about Morris, Campazzo, Hampton, etc. The one other guy who's going to show up a little bit for value is Zika Nnaji. Zeke Nnaji. Played 23 minutes in the last game, or 24 minutes in the last game. Should play about the same tonight, maybe even has a little bit of room on that. I'm not in love with it. I'm just throwing it out there. He is 3.1K. If we were completely starved for value, I don't mind if you use it, but again, I'd rather wait on the value personally.
All right, first of all, just not to tilt you, but your voice is kind of going in and out.
You know what? This unstable internet, hopefully, I mean, thankfully it's just temporary, but it is frustrating. It is Airbnb.
So by the way, so this is Zika Nnaji. Definitely one of the very, you don't want to get him confused with the other Nnajis though. So make sure that you're picking the right one, because there are probably plenty of players with 2 N's to start their names. That you pick the right one. You don't want to get Bogdanovich or something like that.
Yeah. So, but on the Boston side, I mean, I actually don't. I think it's a good idea to maybe run 1 or 2 of those guys I mentioned on the Denver side and run it back. I don't think you need a run back, but I think that these guys are still. Look, I know Jaylen has not been the same lately, and what really is troubling me about him is 0 assists now in 3 of the last 4 games. The odd part is in between those games against the team that I said leaks the most assists to the wing positions, which is Toronto, he had 10 assists. So he had 0, then 10, then 0, then 0, which is pretty unusual. The lack of assists is worrying me because this guy's playing well, shooting well, and he's 11 for 21, 20 shots, and he's only putting up 38 fantasy points. It does worry me a little bit, but I'm willing to embrace it at 7,800. I also think Tatum, I think people sometimes like, I don't know if it's sticker shit, whatever it is. He does have some streaky games where he'll have those real duds for you, but it wouldn't surprise me at all for him to have 50 in this matchup. And then, the value is, I like Robert Williams personally. I'd rather err on that hill than the Tristan Thompson one, just because how often does Tristan Thompson get you like 30 plus, whereas Robert Williams could do that in like half the time. So mild interest in Thompson. As of right now, more interest in Williams for me. That may change later in the day, be with at 6 Eastern. But yeah, we want to do some business in this first game. I just don't think you want to like put all your eggs in this basket. I think we have some better spots coming up.
Yeah, I agree with that. Again, I'm just kind of looking ahead to some of these other games and values. There's really, I mean, right now my top 2 values are top 6 of the top 6 values. 3 of them are in this game, and not too particularly blown away by any of it. You know what I mean? JaMychal Green, Monte Morris, Michael Porter.
I mean, Jamal Green is in a whole different situation than when we've had him this year. So I actually think he's maybe he's more of the priority for value. I mean, like Porter is not really value, but Michael Green is pretty high on. I mean, he should play a ton of minutes. Now we've seen Denver do some weird things where they don't do that all the time, but I would imagine he'd play a ton of minutes tonight. I mean, you're missing the two guys who keep him off the court are out. You know.
Yeah, I have kind of a couple of awful pivots off of him a little later.
I love it. I'm excited to get into that because
it won't excite you that much, but well, we'll see.
You never know. The unexciting Whiteside call was the call of the day.
Sure was. Man.
Oh boy. You know what, Sheets? We should have to like get like a lashing or something every time that Whiteside scores 50 fantasy points and we don't play enough.
Something like that.
I talk about it all the time.
I'll tell you, man. What did I do that with poker or horse race? I forget what I did. Whenever he did something stupid, I would like push-ups or something like that. There was
that's funny.
All kinds of like punishments for doing stupid shit. Have to get that going again.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we want to talk about New Orleans and Memphis, a really exciting nationally televised. By the way, I want to start mentioning to you guys when the games are nationally televised, because I'm telling you with these players, it absolutely matters. And there's a spot later tonight where if we're questioning guys sitting on a back-to-back, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Guys are going to play the nationally televised games these days. It's like the only chance to play in front of fans anymore.
I thought of you yesterday. The one of the other sites, guy literally spent 10 full minutes like talking about why he didn't believe in narratives and this, that, and the other thing. The usual stuff, right? The usual whatever. And then I went back and I thought about what Crane said when he was here the other day. He's like, there are two kinds of people in the world. One are the people that played Kobe Bryant on his last day, and the others who didn't. Okay, and you know, when you bring up a situation like that to like kind of somebody that I'm referring to, they're like, well, that's different. Okay, well, so basically, it's different when you don't have, you know what I mean? Like it's only different as a matter of degree, right? So it does depend in my estimation on who the player is and what their role is. If you're a backup center, I don't care what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, but if you're going to have the ball in your hands as much as you want and could shoot as much or as little as you want, or if you could just talk your way into more minutes into the coach. I mean, I'll tell you, I've been a coach for a long time in AAU, and even in that situation, I mean, you see the look on some people's faces. I'm telling you, I've had parents come up to me and say, "Listen, dude, it's coach. You do what you want, but this is his former team. This is a team that did this, that, and the other thing," and it's happened. I'll tell you one story. This is it. Okay. So there's a guy I had on my team who kind of I had like two teams, an A team and a B team. And we went to a college recruiting tournament. And usually the A team plays on like the main courts where all the college coaches are looking at them. And the B team plays on like court 72, like in the back with like urine on the floors. And you know what I mean? The rims like not exactly straight. It's not exactly true, but that's the kind of the idea. No one goes and watches those games. And I had this one kid who was like right on the cusp, but he was like a B team player. And you know, in between games, a coach from, where was it? I think Malloy College comes up to me and says, "Listen, I hear that your last game got postponed." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, for your blue team, when you guys are playing again at like 1:00 in court 37, right?" I'm like, yeah, that's true. But why? I'm just wondering why do you know that? And he's like, "Oh, because I got to see Eamon McGowan, right?" I'm like, "You do?" Like in my head, I'm like, "You do? You really got to see Eamon McGowan?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay, sure." So we're playing back there, whatever it is. So I debated whether to even tell Eamon or not, okay, that a college coach is going to be watching him, because I didn't want him to get nervous or whatever it is. But I said, you know what? I even spoke to the father first. He's not tell him whatever. So I said, Eamon, listen, college coach is coming to watch you. Just so you know, you're playing the whole game, okay? And just try to stay within yourself. Don't get nervous. I said, sure, no problem, coach. Let's just say this, like he averaged about 10 points a game and like 6 rebounds. I swear to you, he had 30 points and 15 rebounds and ended up playing in college.
That's
okay.
Well, yeah.
So, and I went to him, I yelled at him after the game. Listen, I don't know whether just to praise you for that or to yell at you, say, why didn't you play like this every other freaking game? You know? And he's like, I don't know what got into me. Well, you're a human being, man. And sometimes you get the proper motivation, people will play outside of themselves. So it's just a question of what motivates people and what type of person gets motivated. And that's just kind of the way it goes.
Totally agree. What are your thoughts on this? So
with that said, I'm not too big of a fan of the value on either side of this game. My favorite plays, and I don't know why I just keep going back to it. I'm just kind of have these memories of him being better or shooting more or whatever it is. I keep going back to Dylan Brooks from Memphis, both on DraftKings and especially on FanDuel, but even on DraftKings at 5,500, where I definitely like him. Yes, Morant is obviously the first place I would go, but Dylan Brooks is the first place I go on the Memphis team for some reason. I'm not playing Grayson Allen at 4,700. I just mentioned that. And the New Orleans side of it again, but I guess it's just this whole slate-wide thing. Nobody really stands out to me. I guess Josh Hart would be my favorite, I guess, and he's going to be low owned, I suppose. But this whole game is not too exciting for me.
Yeah, it's interesting because it should be a lightning quick game, huge total or a big total, but it should be really fast. I mean, with the way these teams have been playing with Zion, between the up-tempo New Orleans team that's sort of rejuvenated and the sped up Morant Memphis team. It's weird with Memphis because nobody ever projects well. So I just think that you always get lower ownership. I don't like Joe Val in this individual matchup, but he's a perfect example of a guy who never projects, but could always put up 50 fantasy points. I don't think we haven't seen much of it from Ja, although he was pretty good the other night against the Lakers, just in terms of fantasy output. The guy is he's going to have a double-double to start most games. That gives him a pretty high floor. And I think we've seen him shoot 7 for 18. He hasn't shot 50% in a game, I don't think, this whole season. And a lot of times in the 20s and 30s. One game is, I guess 2 games this season. I think that Ja is completely in play at 7,500. I'm starting to, one of the things that was sort of I've been going through lately is that these pay-ups while they're underpriced, unless you really have the value you feel great about, you could, or even if you do, there's so many guys in the 7K, 8K range that could literally outscore the guys even if the guys have good games in the 10K, 11K range. Ben Simmons yesterday puts up 70, he put up more than James Harden did, and he cost 2,400 less. So to me, I'm looking to try and get guys like that. I think Ja Morant has a chance at getting 50 in a matchup like this. So I do have Ja Morant quite a bit. And I feel stupid when you look at just the game logs for Zion to play him in tournaments. Now, it also probably feels great to play him in cash because he's basically a lock for 40 fantasy points. He just basically does it every night. What worries me about Zion is, and Sheets, if you would have told me after the first 3 games of the year where Zion had 14, 10, and 11 rebounds, that it would take him almost 2 months to get 3 more games of 10 rebounds, I would have thought you were absolutely crazy. But the way that they set things up, he just doesn't get it to rebound the ball. He's not underneath as much. You got Steven Adams there clogging it up too. Josh Hart is actually a better rebounder than he is this year. So yes, I have some interest in Zion, and the obvious guys, Zion and Ja, but I don't know how much of it I'm actually going to get to when we get through this actual slate. And like you, I do think that there is an argument for Josh Hart almost every night that it's fast paced because of the rebounding upside. You see, he'll have these 17 games, 13 games. He's had a bunch of 10 rebound. He has more double-digit rebound games by a lot than Zion does, and he's usually in the 7 to 8 range. If he gets minutes and he gets hot, he can put up 40 fantasy points. So, yeah, it's a fun game. I'm looking forward to it, but I don't know how much for DFS outside of Ja and a little bit of Zion I'm going to have.
All right. Well, I mean, now you get to the real exciting game. I mean, there's only 6 games, so there's only 2 really good games. Well, actually, the Denver-Boston game, I guess you consider that a good game. Toronto-Milwaukee, I mean, this. What's that?
I don't know about that. I think there's 3 really. What about the last game? It's a great game.
That's what I said, 3. There's Denver, Toronto, and then the last game.
Yeah.
So this is obviously a tremendous game. I mean, could be East Coast, Eastern Conference final possibilities. Who knows? Or Toronto could get run out of the gym, or anything could happen. But obviously that there's going to be a lot of what is the total in this game? Is it 240 or no?
No, it's actually barely higher than the total of the game before. It's 235 and a half.
Yeah, I mean,
but that's only a few points higher than the New Orleans, Memphis.
So I have this this theory about Toronto, which I would like to try to debunk, like kind of on the fly here. No, I can't do it right now. So my first look is that Giannis is clearly, I mean, just a clear priority spend on the night. You could make, between him, Jokic, LeBron, Harden. That was my first look. Is that you have everything you want. It's a fast-paced game. Should be a close enough spread, I suppose, and like in a weird way. So I was gonna say that Toronto, that I have this theory that they're a really good team. They play together as a team. They figure out ways to control top players if they had to. And so it might be a little bit more difficult for Giannis to do whatever he wants. But the problem is, and I went into this, I talked about this last year a lot, is that if that's the case, it doesn't even, all that means is that now Giannis is going to get 36 minutes instead of 32. You know what I mean? Like if they do a decent enough job to contain Giannis such that Milwaukee's not up by 15, that they're only up by like 4, then all that ends up happening from a fantasy perspective is that instead of 32 minutes, Giannis will end up playing 36. So it's one of those weird cases where I think Giannis gets there either way. So he would be my first thing to do. Probably the whole slate is make sure to get him. And then we have the same conversation as we always do about Toronto, right? Is the fact that is it my imagination that it's balanced, or like you said, you might think it's balanced, but the fact of the matter is that somebody just smashes every single game and you just don't know exactly which one it's going to be. And then I start thinking, okay, I hear Bobby in my head saying, well, you know what? Let's play Van Vliet because at least he's going to shoot the ball. And then I think, okay, Milwaukee not likes to, but they tend to give up the 3. So maybe Van Vliet becomes kind of the top play. So that's how all that kind of like weaved around to say that I'd like to probably play Giannis and Van Vliet. The other thing I would say about this game is that Middleton, if you were going to play lineups without Giannis, I think Middleton's a very, very strong play. Seeing as I went down with Mitchell again, I may as well try to go down with Middleton again. Same player as far as
it wasn't Mitchell's fault that Jordan Clarkson made every single shot he took.
Okay.
No,
no, it wasn't his fault. It was my fault. It was my fault that Clarkson took every shot. So Middleton's a good play, and I'll tell you who else is a good play. I think like every day now, regardless of spread, I think Portis is like actually a good play every day. So I'll leave that. And then on the other Toronto guy, I'll throw in, I mean, Baines. I don't know. He's not. By the way, he was not going to be my pivot I was talking about. But maybe Baines. If he gets 25 minutes somehow. Maybe again on a slate like this, I think you might benefit from a 20-point game out of a $3,200 guy or something like that. So that's the other guy I would come up with. I, for whatever reason, didn't get to Siakam today, but for me, it's either the guards, Van Vliet, Lowry, and my Van Vliet take is my long, circuitous way to get to Van Vliet, which I described earlier.
Yeah, I thought this was. I thought you made some really good points, actually. I agree that Giannis stands out as being clearly, obviously, the highest scoring player on the slate. I don't know. He's right near there as number one priority. It's just going to come down to lineup construction. I'll point out that since Jrue Holiday has been gone, Giannis does have a higher usage rate than Middleton, but not by that much. And just to throw that out there, that Middleton has a very high upside. And I've talked about this all year. I just talked about it before. Distributing wings and guards versus Toronto have absolutely lit them up. And Middleton fits that category somewhat. So I think he's interesting a little bit. Starving for value, I think you're going to get minutes out of Bryn Forbes in a good game environment. That's all I can say. I don't love playing Bryn Forbes, but it's not a huge slate. And, if you're looking for some value, the same thing sort of like, you have Baines in the other situation. But I think my priority is going to be I'll play one of Van Vliet or Lowry. The last couple games have been a little bit frustrating because they haven't quite gotten all the way there. But I don't know if I can really get to Siakam in this matchup, even though he's been actually pretty good lately. I'll have a little bit of all of them. I'm not as obsessed with them as usual, but I think that Van Vliet, Lowry in that order are my favorites, and I will have some of that with Middleton and with Giannis.
Okay.
You ready to go on to the next one?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll agree with you about Bobby Portis too. Like, there's a part of me that just wants to have fun and play Bobby Portis and Chris Boucher back and forth. Bobby Portis and Bobby Boucher back and forth.
That's pretty funny.
Just because they're like it's like the anti lineup. Like, they're the guys who just go completely nuts that break everybody else on their teams. You know what I mean? They both put up 45 or something. I'm not going to really do it, but it's just kind of a fun idea.
All right. So Lakers, Minnesota. Game could be. I mean, again, if Cat has a good game, this game could be. Game could get closer than people think, I suppose. I am still not. I don't know why I don't like him. I guess he's okay, but I just have Towns below other guys. You know, I just do. I have. So I don't know if I'm going to get there. The guy that I'm going to. The unexciting guy that I kind of want to play, I guess, just because he's going to be half the ownership at a similar price at a similar position. I think I want to play Jared Vanderbilt from Minnesota instead of JaMychal Green. Again, the slate is not just about that, but I think it's a good place to start. So I'm going to try that. And the other guy, I don't even know if I like anybody else in this game. I mean, honestly, McLaughlin, I guess, is always fine. I wasn't going to play either of the anybody on the Lakers, really. LeBron would be, obviously the guy to play, I think. But for me, it's going to be probably just Vanderbilt. I don't know.
Yeah, I like LeBron and I like Schroeder. I don't know how much of them I end up with because, again, I do prefer Giannis, but I think it'd be kind of wrong not to have some interest in LeBron in this spot. Also, speaking of guys who are like thin value but actually have upside, I think Horton Tucker fits that category to some extent.
Okay.
I also think that you could consider potentially KCP. And the minutes have been a little bit whatever, but without Anthony Davis, I just feel like against this Minnesota team, there's going to be a lot of open looks. There's going to be a lot of it's probably a little too spread out on the Lakers side. They're playing Matthews minutes, they're playing Morris minutes, they're playing Caruso. Maybe it's just a little too spread out and I leave the value alone. But I will throw THT into a couple things and maybe one or two KCP lineups. Obviously they did their job and priced Kuzma way the hell out of the arena for us. But he's been really good lately. I'm just not going to get to him. I think the answer to this game is you do want some exposure to Schroeder, in my opinion. And you want some exposure to LeBron if you're playing a lot of lineups. But if you're playing even just a few, I really, it's only a matter of times before Cat just completely dismantles one of these slates. And it's not a good matchup. Better without Davis, obviously. But I can't get over this price. Like this is a guy who's right there with these other guys. And honestly, they need him more. He's also going to get all the usage in the world because only Beasley really has any usage other than him. The usage hasn't quite been as high as you'd think the first couple games, but it's coming, man. And I think at 9,300, I'm curious where the ownership ends up on him, but I have a ton of interest in Cat here. So that's where I'm at.
All right, you want to finish?
And I'm okay with your Vanderbilt call too. I always like.
I said, it is just what it is. I mean,
yeah.
All right, so the last game. I mean, like we got to talk about this because
we have
some of these
games.
Oh, there's one after I keep forgetting. Yeah. So we got to really talk about some of these guys, some of these value guys for Portland because they're showing up in my runs, and I gotta figure this out. So first of all, Lillard's a good play. We're gonna get to OKC in a second, but presuming that Portland can't blow anybody out, and OKC beats everybody. I don't care who's on the court. So I mean, they beat them, and they take the Lakers double overtime when they have no players. So Lillard's a good play, and then like these other guys, like I think I want to play one of the centers in this game. I think I want to play either Cantor or Horford. I just don't know exactly which one. I think I prefer Cantor. And then Simons is 4K. Derek Jones Jr. is 3,700. Those are the two guys I kind of have to work through on the Portland side. And then on the OKC side, again, we always just trying to see who's playing, I suppose. But presuming, and this is, again, just ridiculous to presume, but presuming that most of these guys are in now, except for Shea, I guess aside from Horford, the guys they're projecting the best from a point per hour perspective, guys I don't want to play. So I don't want to play Justin Jackson. I don't really want to play Kendrick Williams. I honestly don't want to play anybody. So for me, I'll either play Horford, maybe, or nobody. Maybe Roby. Ugh. I don't know. Maybe just nobody. Maybe that's just the best answer.
Yeah, this is a tough situation because it could be like a bunch of guys get there kind of, and it could be what are we even doing playing these guys? I'll start with Portland too because Lillard's a great play. Obviously, he's going to be one of the chalk plays of the day, along with the other guys I mentioned in the first game. I think that sure, Derek Jones on this slate, maybe enters the conversation a little bit. I always have a little bit of trouble playing Derek Jones just because he doesn't really do anything at all.
Well, I don't know about that. He rebounds, he blocks shots. I don't know. I like it.
Show me his 30 fantasy point games, and I'll wait. I don't think he's had one in his career. And it's not like he's 3K. He's 3,700, and he puts up near 20. But that's all. That's what I mean. He rebounds, he blocks shot. He gets 3 rebounds, and he blocks 1 shot. That's how he gets his fantasy points. He doesn't ever shoot the ball. He doesn't ever score. Every now and then he'll have a nice rebounding game, get 9 or 10 rebounds, but he can't get the double-double because he can't score 10 points. It's just not exciting to me. But it's on my list.
It's not.
He's on my list though, anyway, just because it's early in the day and we're looking at value. I think the better play if you're going to try and do it is take a shot at a guy, even though the upside hasn't really been there as much lately. Anthony Simons is the guy I just think the production per minute is a little more appealing. And he's actually more consistent than Derek Jones too, which is kind of odd, but Derek Jones will be high owned and he won't be, or higher owned, I should say, not high owned. I think that mostly you're sticking with Damian Lillard or Cantor. I like Cantor a little bit better than Horford, just like you, but I don't mind Horford. I do think I prefer Cantor. And I think Justin Jackson, who I was doing well with when no one was on him before, and he started shooting the ball again. Every now and then he just starts shooting the ball, but I just point out, like, he had these 2 good games. He made, 7 out of his 9 threes. Like, it's a lot to ask for. Honestly, the guy who I know is going to be out there until he fouls out is Dort. So he makes the most sense to me, along with, I think this is a good matchup for Bazley. After some really tough matchups. By the way, Bazley's tough matchups in a row had Giannis, then he had Denver, and then he had the 2 Lakers before that. So I don't think Bazley has been in good spots. This is actually finally a good spot for him. But I'm sort of with you. It all feels kind of gross to me today. I have if I was scripting, I have all these guys at 10%, and I don't really know if I want to go with any of them. So Diallo is 6K on FanDuel. I'll mention that. Roby, I do think has upside if he ends up getting the minutes back, and I think that's very possible that he does. But yeah, it's not a pretty picture on the other side of this one. So this is one I think maybe we'll have some more information. Who knows? Maybe somebody else is sitting. Maybe somebody else is coming in that they haven't been playing. Maybe Moses Brown gets activated. I don't know. I just don't feel interested in. I don't feel interested in these guys at these prices.
Yeah, I think that this last game is might be the answer to everything. Maybe.
Yep.
I mean, all this other stuff that we talked about. I mean, then we have. I'm presuming it's a pick 'em spread or something close to it, right?
Yeah, it's actually, wow. Okay, that's a little weird. Phoenix is 5.5 point favorites.
Yeah, because these guys are terrible. I mean,
what do you mean? Brooklyn they're good. They win.
Nah, they're terrible. Brooklyn
has been the second best team in basketball since they've been together.
Yeah, but they don't have Durant. I mean,
But they've won.
Phoenix is good. I'm telling you.
Phoenix is good. I mean, honestly, okay. I mean, I don't think they've only lost 1 game with Harden and Kyrie together. Okay.
I was gonna say, by the way, I wouldn't be surprised if Phoenix were a 3-point favorite. So
right.
You're telling me they're 6?
5.5, yeah.
So you know what I'm gonna say.
Somebody sitting?
No, the Phoenix is a lock.
Oh, okay.
right? I mean, why are they 5.5? It's so obvious.
Because they're hot, which show is Brooklyn, by the way. They're both hot.
Yeah. So the fact of the matter is that whether it's 5.5 or 3.5 or 2.5, you're going to get Kyrie and Harden playing 74 minutes. And I was exaggerating, but between they're each going to get 37, right? they're both going to play a shitload. And I know Phoenix has been quote unquote good defensively, but this is just a different thing, And likewise, I feel as though that between, well, more so Booker, but I think Booker could have just a ridiculous game today. I think Paul can have a good game. I know you're not as into Chris Paul as a lot of people. I'm not either, but I think he could have a good game, and I think Ayton could have a tremendous game. So just to start a lineup off with, for example, something like I just put down here, like Kyrie, Booker, Ayton, or something like that, or even with Harden, if you could find the right value to make all this work. And now you're giving up Giannis to do this, obviously, right? That's the thing, right? But if you're willing to do that, you could just sit on your fat ass and root against everybody. And then you just gotta like crack your knuckles and say, okay, Brooklyn, play your no defense. And let's see what happens, I think it's a very, very legitimate, I make it trivial, but I think it's a very legitimate strategy because the second thing is it pushes stuff back till the end. Now, I don't mean that necessarily value is going to open up in the Phoenix game necessarily, but who knows for openers? Who knows it like with 15 minutes to post if freaking Kyrie gets ruled out personal or something like that. God knows what happens. The thing is though, this is a total Hammer Island special, What about other guys in Phoenix? What about guys like Frank Kaminsky, Jay Crowder, Cam Johnson? I mean, everybody's got to benefit from this matchup, right? I don't know. I think I want to spend a little more time on this as the day goes on.
Too many bodies in Phoenix, in my opinion. I mean, you've got a bunch of guys spreading a ton of minutes out. Okay. If we got Crowder into his earlier season role, I think he'd be the best play of all of them. Actually, I think he is in play of the other guys, I should say. Yeah, Booker could have a game here that we've been saying that, and this is the kind of matchup obviously you think he could. He's been really good lately in real life. I just it does feel like his ceiling is a little bit capped with the way they're going, but his usage has been like awesome lately. It's leading just to how much he scores, and basically that's where you're getting your fantasy points from. But I do think Booker is in play. I think that Chris Paul is in play, but I agree. I agreed with the Ayton thing. I think Ayton's probably the best of these guys. I think he's under projected where I'm looking anyway. I don't really understand why the production is so low just because he had a few bad games. I think this is a really good matchup for him, and I do like him. But it's just, what do we prioritize here? And on the other side, I mean, I love both Kyrie and Harden. I think they will play a bunch of minutes. They won that game pretty handily last night, but still did play. Kyrie, I believe, played 30 minutes, and Harden played 35. I don't see any. They're not the guys who I'm worried. I mean, look, there's always a chance somebody sits out, especially that spread's got me a little bit worried. But I don't really know why these guys don't really act like that. And when they play all their minutes. It's not like they get limited ever, basically. The only one who might be, but I don't know who else they're gonna. I mean, they could play the Jeff Green thing, but DeAndre Jordan on a back-to-back, and oddly enough, he's been pretty good on the back-to-back so far this year. So I think if DeAndre Jordan is actually overlooked somehow on this slate, he might be a really solid value.
Not going to be overlooked because the reason why I mention it is he is actually not that big of a deal. He rates to be a good play for me. Not a great play though. So yeah, maybe he will be slip through the cracks just a little bit.
And sometimes the guys slip through the cracks because we hear about other news and stuff earlier, and everybody flocks to something. I'm just throwing it out there. Just sometimes late games, these guys we thought would be owned aren't as owned. And it's weird that on every back-to-back, I think it's every back-to-back except for one this season. No, I think it's all of them. I think he played more minutes on the second of a back-to-back and all but one, which he played like 30 seconds less in that one. So I just think it's kind of interesting. Like, not to say that but he's been playing the back-to-backs. I mean, and if he does the same thing again tonight, I do think he's interesting at 4,500. But the main thing is, I think Kyrie is more feasible to get to. And honestly, his usage and Harden's usage is pretty similar, but Harden just does so much more. I love both of them. I think I'll give the edge to Kyrie just because of the, I don't know if I want to play Harden over Giannis and then you play them together. It gets really complicated, but Kyrie at least gives you a little bit more room. And my favorite run back is Ayton, but I don't mind Chris Paul or Booker either.
Yeah, so it's good. I think it's going to be the only thing that this slate has going for it for me is that I do think it's going to be low scoring.
Interesting. Well, it's definitely going to be lower scoring than last night. I'll give you that.
Yeah, no, I just whenever there's a slate with like not like a lot of uber smash value, it just tends to be low scoring,
Right.
And I don't know. I think that I can make lineups that look okay. You know what I mean? And that's all I need. I don't need to put lineups in with like 4 smash values and 4 studs. You know what I mean? Like I just need I need some passable builds, and I think I can get that so far. I don't know what happens later when everything else kind of comes out, but yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. Just to reiterate, yeah, I mean, like, I know that we, always at the end, just top owned plays for me tonight. Porter, Towns. Obviously, I can't get all these guys in together everywhere, but these are the guys who I'm trying to prioritize. Porter, Towns, Giannis, Kyrie, Lillard, Green, Ayton, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Jamal Murray, John Morant, and Fred VanVleet.
Okay, so let's do a little bit of FanDuel, because for me, FanDuel's a little bit easier. Yep. Now again, this is pre-Tice, so I don't know how that affects it, but we'll look at it. Like if Tristan Thompson is about 3,800 or something, or whatever he is, then that becomes, which is something you have to do probably. But in any case, so at point, you want to do point guard? You want to just do?
Yeah.
So.
Go ahead.
I guess I'll start. So at point guard, again, like deep value, if you wanted to go to stuff like Monty Morris or Jordan McLaughlin, you could do that. But I think you can pay up a little bit. I like Lillard at 9,500. I mean, he's going to be really popular, but I like him. And then, right back to Kemba Walker again. I mean, he always remains very fairly priced. And those are kind of like my two favorites.
Kemba is Kemba's a solid play over here. He's actually fine on DraftKings too, by the way. I didn't really mention him much, but I like Diallo a little bit. I think the price is right, and at 6K. So Lillard, in order of my favorites, Lillard, Schroeder, Diallo, Morant, I think would be my order. Yeah. The one other one is, I'll throw a tiny bit of Kyle Lowry in there too.
At shooting guard, I guess, on the one hand, raw points. Harden is you're going to get a lot of raw points out of the position. I'm trying to see where else I'm going to get points, and I like Fred VanVleet a lot. For all the reasons I mentioned earlier. So I think that's a really good mixture of value and upside and raw points. And then I go back to Dylan Brooks, who I brought up earlier as a kind of a middle range value. Guy who's cheap, I didn't mention on either site, is Eric Bledsoe, 4,800. Then a guy you mentioned from OKC, Dort. I never get there with him, so I'll let you do it. I didn't quite get to Booker over here. Even though maybe I should, but for me, it's I either pay all the way up for Harden or go these middling things like VanVleet, Brooks, stuff like that.
VanVleet's my favorite play by far at shooting guard. Next would be Harden. Next would be, it's sort of a slew of guys in that weird little low range that we were just talking about, like Dort, Bledsoe, Brooks, and and again, I think that because I don't really love all those guys, it does make Booker fine. That's pretty much it for me.
So my two favorite, I have two favorite plays at small forward, and it's not in this lineup here. I just put Cameron Johnson in because to make this other thing work. But I like Michael Porter Jr. a lot. He's going to be huge chalk as always. And then I like on lineups where you're not playing Giannis. I really like Chris Middleton.
Yeah, I don't think it matters if you're playing Giannis too.
You think you could play the two of them
Yeah,
together?
absolutely no problem
Yeah, the problem is
at this
I
price.
can't afford it.
Well, this
um,
price is reasonable. I mean, for Middleton, like very, very reasonable.
yeah, no, I like Middleton. I just want to get other guys in another position. But I definitely think Middleton and Porter are my two favorite small forward plays. And then a much lower owned than all of them, maybe Jaylen Brown.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't think I'm getting to LeBron today. I think I'd prefer to spend up for Giannis or Harden.
Yeah, this is an interesting position because I prefer Porter and Middleton so far. I know they're pretty chalky, but they're just so far above everybody else in the position that I'm just gonna they'll be in more than half my lineups.
Yeah.
I mean, as of right now, maybe a little bit of LeBron, a tad of Kenrich if I wanted to save, but even that doesn't feel right. Like maybe Mikal Bridges is the answer as a better play than those guys, than the other value ones. Yeah, I think he is at 5,300 in this matchup. We need to give the bump, but he's over 6K on DraftKings, and I think at 5,300, I mean, he's whatever, 28 or more in 4 out of his last 6. He's put up 32 and 40 in a couple of those games, and he's only 5,300. I mean, it's a great matchup. I think that he's the next priority for me, actually.
Somebody we didn't mention at point guard only because I'm looking at it. Do you like? You mention him a lot. Not a lot. Every once in a while, he throws in a ceiling game out of nowhere. Is Jamal Murray?
Yeah, I thought I mentioned him. I'm sorry, my bad about that.
And yeah, 6,500 is pretty reasonable over there.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the thing with Jamal Murray is he's weird. Like he's gonna put up around 40 most games or whatever, and then he'll have the real dud games where he puts up like 10, and then he'll have the monster games where he puts up like 70. So, but yeah, I like him quite a bit over here. Actually, I think I would rank him right there with Kemba. They're pretty close together, in my opinion.
Power forward, I have to say, I mean, this is early runs or whatever, but not even just as a pivot, but just kind of even ownership aside, I actually like Vanderbilt the best as far as the value guys on FanDuel at power forward. Now, with that said, I mean, obviously the best play is going to be Giannis, but you do have to put 2 positions in. I like Jermichael Green fine, but again, I prefer him. And the other guy who we mentioned, who I mean, he's cheap as hell over here, is Bobby Portis. So I definitely like him too. So for me, it's Portis. Now again, we have to figure out what's going on with what. Let's see, what is Tristan Thompson's price?
47. It's not my play.
What's he? Oh, but he's not power forward anymore.
No, he is. No, he's center, but he's also 4,700.
Yeah. So there's Grant Williams. He's the guy you said was going to start.
No, maybe? I never. That.
Who's the Williams?
Robert Williams.
Oh, Robert Williams. Okay.
Okay,
so for me, it's Giannis and Vanderbilt's my 2 favorites.
Yeah, I don't know that you necessarily need to play them. I do think that Robert Williams is actually kind of okay at power forward over here, but
is he power forward though?
He's power forward. He's 3,600.
Grant Williams is 3,600.
Let me see. Did I get the wrong Williams? Yes, I did. My bad. Thank you.
Which is the one that's the big guy?
I mean, they're like both of them are long shot plays. Like I don't like Grant Williams at all. Robert Williams.
Wait a minute. If Tice is out, who is starting?
Probably Grant Williams or Ojale or something. Doesn't really matter. I mean, they were just missing Kemba. Like it's not like Daniel Tice is going to open up. They already
no. But they're playing Jokic. I mean, someone's got to start that's over 6'4", right? I mean,
Thompson starts every game.
Oh, so Thompson's good. That's what I was asking. Oh, okay, all right. Fine.
Yeah. Thompson's. Yeah, I didn't even think it was the big. He starts with Tice.
Okay.
But most of the time anyway. They've sort of mixed it up a few times. But yeah, the Vanderbilt thing is interesting at power forward just because it's hard to justify. Okay, now Cat's back, so we're going to start playing this guy when it makes absolutely no sense, like to me. But
yeah, I guess
it's cheap, like. But we shouldn't look at any of his game logs and think it has any relevance to anything whatsoever.
It's pretty
because he might very well play 5 minutes tonight. That's not an exaggeration.
Yeah, I guess.
He also could play 20 minutes and put up 30. He's very, very good production per minute guy. I like JaMychal Green. I like Giannis. I will have a tiny bit of the Vanderbilt share just because I think that it's, I'm open to taking a shot there. Kuzma at 5,800. Interesting to me. I like him quite a bit there. Nnaji might be a better play than Vanderbilt. I'm willing to speculate on him as well. But it's so not exciting of a position for me outside of Green and Giannis, which is not that exciting, that I think that the answer might just be, this is where you can probably just play Zion for the raw points at 8,300 too. And then if you could afford going up Tatum, but again, you're just trying to get to Giannis at that point. I still think Tatum is totally in play at 9,500. I just think on power forward, other than JaMychal Green and Giannis, I wouldn't expect anyone to more than 5x their salary, but a couple guys have shots too.
So you don't like Tristan Thompson at 4,700, you're saying?
No.
So I guess my favorite center is going to be Cantor at 6,600. Same question, right? Cantor or Horford, same price range.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you could actually play a guy who could get 50 fantasy points and play Ayton, right?
Yeah, I like that. I would rank Ayton probably right with those. They're pretty close. I actually like Cantor tonight, even going back to OKC. Me, I love a little almost narrative. Yeah, they're all pretty close to me. Cantor, Ayton, and Horford. I think that I would give the edge to Cantor and Ayton, probably slight edge to Ayton over them, even though Ayton's game logs will make you kind of sick, but this guy has the massive upside you want for a tournament. And then again, I'm just going to go back and probably my favorite. I will play a little bit of Robert Williams here, but probably my favorite play is going to end up being DeAndre Jordan. I'm sorry, Karl Anthony Towns. I just
really
I want to get it. This is a guy who has. There's no reason he should be priced beneath any of the other guys we've talked about, except for that he's been out. He could easily be a 10+K guy. He always has been. His production is similar to Jokic's when he's himself. Like not quite there, but it's pretty close. So just keep that. Actually, he's been higher every year except for this year. But I'm just saying, like 9,500, we might be like kicking ourselves on these kind of slates when we're looking at these other guys at 7K and he goes out there and puts up 70 fantasy points. Now, it is not a good matchup for him, but I'm just telling you, the game's coming soon, and on a short slate, I just think this is the time to side with it. Now, if the ownership goes that way, sure, you can pivot other directions, but I do really, really like Cat, and I think he's going to start playing 35+ minutes a game, and he's a monster.
Yes, he is. He is.
But favorite play overall, I think Middleton's the hardest guy not to play, actually, on FanDuel. Middleton, Lillard, Porter, Green all make sense, but I just love Middleton. I just don't see how he doesn't pay off this value tonight. I really don't.
All right, so I think we took us a while, but we
stumbled through it, and it was good. We'll be back with you guys at 6 Eastern today, and we'll cover it. It's not going to be as busy of a stressful thing or anything like that, so we can have a little more back.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Abs. Yeah. Okay.
No, it can't be. It just there's not a way it can be. There's not enough games. You know what I mean? Can't stress it that. Well, I guess there was only 7 last night.
We're writing this down. Cannot be as stressful.
Well, they're all at the same time, and there's no staggering other than there's the island games. I don't know. I just feel like it's much easier to handle these situations than it is the other ones. All right, guys. Sheets. Anything else before we leave?
Yeah, 2 other things, and one other point guard question. You like John Morant?
Yes. Oh, there's the winner. I don't
know
about Giannis and Portis together and Middleton, but I like it. I like these.
This is just being saved. Don't worry.
I know. It's a good outline for it. What is that tournament?
Well, this is the Monster and something else, right? It's 2 entries in the Monster, I think. We don't want this.
Oh, I got you. All right, guys. For Sheets, I'm Bobby saying good luck tonight, and we'll see you at 6 Eastern.